Ladies and gents, it is the last Sunday of the month, Sunday the 31st of October. Clock's gone back. The nights are getting young. Getting dark early. Happy Sunday, happy last Sunday of the month. Coming into Christmas months. It is the prodigious, the prominent Professor, Proclamation News and Gatherence. We're having a phenomenal show today. I just want to read, I'll come back to my Christianity or 14 ways. We had the law, day 11, yesterday. We're going to read it again. Christianity or 14 ways. Before we get into Colchester, Weatherforecast, G20, Rob Roberts and Colchester, Headland buses and Essex Crime in Country Park. So stay tuned. Law, day 11, Exodus 20 to 2 to 3. I'm Lord, your Lord, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You have no other gods before me. This is really significant, this is. Thanks to his great Egyptian education, Moses is ideally equipped to understand these primary commandments written down for him by the finger of God. God didn't give us the law to restrict our lives, but so that they may have been lived to the full. The whole point of the law was to protect us until we could be made right with God through faith. Looking at the Ten Commandments, we have the essence of the legal systems of many countries in the world. Even a quick glance reveals that societies would be much improved if everyone adhered to them. Too often we think of the commandments as a list of those shall nots, but they're not so much then not. God is positive, God not a negative one. Just imagine games without rules, competitive sports without codes, driving and travel without laws, etc. The results would be total chaos and very hazardous to our health and welfare. Having said that, simply devising laws and trying to force obedience to them doesn't work either. Just ask any police officer. Change of heart is required, and subsequently a change of direction. When you consider the laws of Moses, remember it is there to point you to Jesus, not to condemn you and make you feel inadequate. The law should make you realize you need Jesus and then turn to him. I made that yesterday. Before we move on, ladies and gents, thank you ever so much for tuning in. It really means a lot, everyone's tuning in to Proclamation News and Gatherence. If you'd like to subscribe, I'd really appreciate that also. Before we enter the UK road incidents, do not enter a vehicle under sleep deprivation, under the influence of narcotics and alcoholism. Do not eat while you're driving. Do not text or be on your mobile phone while driving, or smoke. Blurs your vision, doesn't it, for that split second, can make you cause an accident. Check your engine or water coolant tank, make sure it's topped up to maximum level. Check your PSI limits, check your PSI limits, making sure your tyres are not bowled. Make sure you and passengers have seatbelts adjacent to the car seat, and babies have adapters adjacent to the car seat as well. Check for further police instructions on the road. Check for road workers, just in case they're coming from behind the house fencing, may edge onto the road. So slow down, be vigilant around the workers. Before turning, check your centre mirror before turning, acting in safe, sufficient direction of choice, just in case there's a motorcyclist or a car overtaken. Anyway, we're going to look at the instance today in Suffolk. Before we do move on, just bear in mind, the police, always attending incidents, NHS, fire brigade, all legal authorities attending this scene, working hard. Hard hand in hand. Even inside the hospital after the incident happens, you've got doctors, the nurses, all working hard, hand in hand, as I say. A14, queuing traffic, congestion to earlier rolled over vehicle, detour and operation, all lanes have been reopened. Rolled over car on A14 westbound at junctions 55, A12 Copdock interchange, congestion to junction 56 Worsted interchange, detour and operation via exit and slip roads. The roads reopened at 5:10 only just reopened. All lanes have been reopened. The incident happened at 3:43. Just in Cambridge, we have M11. Road congestion, queuing traffic for 2 miles due to weekend roadworks until the early hours on Monday morning on M11, northbound from Junction 9, Saffron Walden to Junction 10, A505, Duxford, congestion to traffic on approach. On the A1301, near Hixton to Whittlesford, 12:51 p.m. is reported on the 28th of October. Watford, M25 lanes closed, accident traffic coping well. 1 lane closed due to accident M25 clockwise at junction 24. A111 Stag Hill, Potters Bar, traffic is coping well. Lane 1 of 4 is closed. 5 p.m. East London, A102, queuing traffic on A102, Blackwall Tunnel approach northbound at tunnel entrance. 3:15 p.m. reported today. We're looking Wembley, 2 more incidents. Vine Street, traffic signal on Vine Street at A4020 Hinton Road. Traffic is coping well. Approach with care. Oxford, at Pegas Road, road closed, unsafe building. Road closed due to unsafe building. Pegas Road, eastbound from Windale Avenue to Knights Road. This is reported this morning at 11 a.m. We've got a weather forecast for you, ladies and gentlemen, you lovely listeners. Just to give you a bit of what's going on. We've got possible rain this evening from about in between 10 and 11. The rain's going to pick up, or even 8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock here. We have a 10% chance of rain. 7 o'clock, 14% chance of rain. Monday, again, it's going to be could have a slight drizzle. It's got 14% chance of rain tomorrow. The chance of rain is quite likely. Up to 14 miles per hour of wind. This is in London. This is all London weather forecast. Sorry, guys. I don't want to go through all the different regions because every time I tried it earlier, it cut off. Tuesday, we've got, it's going to be shower. I think it's going to be showers here and there. A slight bit of sun trying to pull through. For the next 3 days, you've got slight showers here and there. Up until Tuesday, slight showers here and there. So bear in mind, summer is now ended. We're coming into the winter months. I'll do one more segment. The G20 was today, wasn't it? Pledge climate action, but make few commitments. G20 pledge. Obviously, the Queen didn't attend, as we heard yesterday. The leaders of the world's richest economies have agreed to pursue efforts to limit global warming with meaningful and effective actions. But a draft agreement from the G20 summit in Rome made a few concrete commitments. Disappointing activists. Host nation Italy hoped that firm target would at least be set before the COP26 summit in Glasgow, which has now begun. The UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who is hosting the COP26, said leaders' promise without action were starting to sound hollow. These commitments are drops in a rapidly warming ocean, Mr. Johnson said. The G20 group, made up 19 countries in Europe and the European Union, accounts for 8% of the world's emissions. The communique or the official statement released by the leaders also makes a reference to achieving net zero by 2050. Net zero means reducing greenhouse gas emissions as much as possible until a country is absorbing the same amount of emissions from the atmosphere that it is putting out. Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi did, however, say in his closing statement that the G20 countries are committed to reaching the target by the mid-century. Scientists say this must be achieved by 2050 to avoid a climate catastrophe, and most countries have agreed to this. However, China, the world's biggest polluter, and Russia have pushed that out to 2060. Neither China's president Xi Jinping nor Russia's Vladimir Putin were in Rome for the conference. Instead, joining via video link, their absence raised concerns that a deal would not be easy to reach. Mr. Putin said that plan was just not to reach carbon neutrality, but to make sure that within the next 3 decades, the amount of greenhouse gas emissions in Russia is lower than, for instance, than that of our neighbours and colleagues in the EU. Comunique does pledge to stop financing new undated coal plants internationally by the end of the year. A strong message to coal-reliant nations such as China, Russia and India. But the G20 leaders stopped short of agreeing to end the coal power in their nations. Mr. Draghi said that they were closer to reaching the goal of providing 100 billion a year in climate financing to developed countries, a key pledge which has been pushed out to 2023. Anthony Guterres, the UN's Secretary General, tweeted that we are leaving Rome with the hopes of unfilled but not buried. While I welcome the G20 recommitment and global solutions, I leave Rome with my hopes unfilled, but at least they're not buried. Onwards to the COP26 in Glasgow to keep the goal of 1.5 degrees alive and to implement promise on finance and adaptation for people and planet. Mr. Johnson said it had been reasonable G20 with some progress made, but there was still so much work to do right now. In Paris Agreement, and I hope that it came with it, is just a piece of paper. Leaders are due to leave Rome and arrive in Glasgow on Sunday night ahead of their high-level climate talks on Monday at COP26. Mr. Johnson had a gloomy message ahead of the conference. If Glasgow fails, then the whole thing fails, he says. Activists had expressed their disappointment over the initial drafts of the Comunique, feeling it was not tough enough. Oscar Sori of the Activist Network, Abbas, told the agency there is little sense of urgency coming from the group, adding, there is no more time for the vague wish list. We need concrete commitments and action. However, others have been keen to paint the G20 as a stepping stone to COP26, which we see delegates from nearly 200 countries gathered to discuss cutting carbon emissions. The US official told reporters the G20 was about helping build momentum before the leaders held Glasgow, while France's President Emmanuel Macron told newspapers journal Die Mensch that nothing is written before the COP. On Saturday, the first day of the summit, the focus was on COVID and the economy, and agreement being reached on a global tax rate will see the profits large business taxed at least 15%. It follows concern that multinational companies are rerouting their profits through low tax jurisdictions. After years of talking, the planet is now at least 1.1 Celsius hotter than any pre-industrial level. Climate scientists want warming restricted to 1.5 Celsius to prevent a climate catastrophe. COP26 Climate Summit, the basis. Climate change is one of the world's most pressing problems. Government must promise more ambitious cuts in warming gases if we are to prevent greater global temperatures. The summit of Glasgow is where change could happen. You need to watch for the promises made by the world's biggest polluters like the US and China, and whether poor countries are getting support they need. Our lives will change. Decisions made here could impact our jobs, how we heat our homes, what we eat, and how we travel. Let's go have a quick short break, ladies and gentlemen. We've got 3 more segments and 2 really, really interesting ones if you're a local constituent such as myself in Essex. We've got Rob Roberts to talk about as well, which is more of a United Nation politics upvote. I'm not quite sure what it's about, to be fair, but we will get there. Bear with me.
If we don't act now, the Paris Agreement will be looked at in the future not as the moment humanity opened its eyes to the problem, but the moment we flinched and turned away. We've seen some progress in the last few days and weeks. Saudi Arabia, Australia, and Russia have all made net zero commitments, meaning 80% of the global economy will wipe out its contribution to climate change by the middle of the century, up from 30%, thanks to the UK's COP26 leadership. Countries such as the United States have doubled their spending on climate aid. Every nation at this weekend's summit will end the financial support for international unabated coal projects by the end of this year. But these commitments, welcome as they are drops in a rapidly warming ocean when we consider the challenge we've all admitted is ahead of us. Just 12 G20 members have committed to reach net zero by 2050 or earlier. Barely half of us have submitted improved plans for how we will cut carbon emissions since the Paris Summit in 2015. And we've also failed to meet our commitments to provide $100 billion a year to support developing countries to grow in a clean and sustainable way. The UN says emissions will rise by 15% by 2030, and they need to halve by then. The countries most responsible for historic and present-day emissions are not yet doing their fair share of the work. If we are going to prevent COP26 from being a failure, then that must change. And I must be clear, if Glasgow fails, then the whole thing fails. The Paris Agreement will have crumpled at the first reckoning. The world's only mechanism, viable mechanism for dealing with climate change will be holed beneath the waterline. Right now, the Paris Agreement and the hope that came with it is just a piece of paper. We need to fill that piece of paper, to populate it with real progress. And I know that humanity has in it the power to rise to the challenge.
Thank you, Bojo. We're going to go back to the moment of truth as the world meets here. It's only just for a short break, just so I can post some of the
Morning, it's
tragic
Sunday, the
incidents.
31st of October. World leaders will be making their way from the G20 summit in Rome to Glasgow today for the start of the COP26 climate conference.
But before they set off, Prince Charles will warn them they have an overwhelming responsibility to future generations to fix the climate crisis. Our diplomatic correspondent, James Landale, is in Rome.
For G20 leaders, this is their first time to spend time together, face to face, for almost 2 years, whether dining at the presidential palace in Rome or sitting round the summit table. A chance to catch up and do deals. Today, their minds will turn to perhaps the most important and most necessary deal. They're expected to agree climate change is an existential threat, but so far there have been no new firm commitments to reduce carbon emissions, much to the frustration of the host of the COP26 summit.
People are often very conceited about history and about our civilization. We think that we can be on a remorseless forward march when actually we can be actively conniving in our own decline and fall. And what we need to do is to ensure that at the COP summit next week, the world leaders come together and make the commitments that are necessary.
Today, he'll win support from an unexpected source. The Prince of Wales has been invited to the summit by the Italian hosts, and he'll tell the G20 leaders they have an overwhelming responsibility to generations yet unborn. It's impossible, he'll say, not to hear the despairing voices of young people who see you, the G20 leaders, as the stewards of the planet, holding the viability of their future in your hands. Amidst all this, the Prime Minister is expected to meet the French President to discuss the continuing row over fishing rights. The French say the boats are being squeezed out of UK waters against the post-Brexit rulebook. The UK disagrees and is threatening legal action, a row that shows no sign of going away. This summit will make some progress, agreeing a minimum global corporation tax and new targets to vaccinate more people in developing countries. But on tackling global warming, it has yet to live up to expectations. James Landale, BBC News, Rome.
More than 25,000 people representing nearly 200 countries have begun arriving for the COP26 climate conference in Glasgow.
Yeah, the aim of the two-week event, as you probably know, is to commit to measures to limit the rise in global temperatures and cut emissions, as our Scotland correspondent Alexandra Mackenzie now explains.
The negotiations have yet to begin, but activists have been arriving in Glasgow. Some walked for weeks to get here. They all want more done to tackle climate change.
I started in Boston in Sweden the 19th of July, and I walked the entire way from Sweden to here. So to bring awareness for climate, and that's my way to do it.
It's the question of our time. I mean, we need to act now, and I felt it was a privilege to devote 4 months to the climate.
I'm walking for my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandson, and I'm demanding for them a good climate.
The teenager Greta Thunberg arrived in the city by train. She has already voiced her concern that COP26 will not lead to any significant changes. Others admit it will be challenging.
When you look at the science, the latest report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is clear that the world is warming, it is human-induced, and if we do not act now, we are going to see increased floods, droughts, heat waves, and all of us will be affected.
Glasgow will host more than 120 world leaders and up to 25,000 delegates. Around 10,000 police officers will be deployed each day. For those living in the city, disruption is expected, and there are mixed feelings about the summit.
I think it's really good that people are coming together about the environment, because it's like a really big deal right now.
Why are they coming here to change? I mean, the money they've spent setting up this setup didn't quite. I just don't get it.
Well, I've heard it's going to increase the COVID numbers as well, so that's obviously about our worry.
The venue for the United Nations Climate Change Conference just across the river is now officially UN territory. This is where world leaders and delegates will meet. This is where those high-stakes discussions will take place. The UK government is hosting the summit, and on behalf of the Scottish Government, Nicola Sturgeon welcomed everyone to Glasgow.
What a wonderful world.
This century.
What a wonderful world.
Understood that people have died following an incident on a river in the Pembrokeshire area of Wales. The Powys police say a major rescue operation was launched on the River Cleddau in Haverfordwest after a group of people were seen in distress. Police, firefighters, Coast Guard, ambulance crews and 4 helicopters were deployed. More details are expected to be released later.
Alec Baldwin has described the death of a colleague on the set of his film as a 1 in a trillion episode after he accidentally shot her with a prop gun, speaking in public for the first time since the cinematographer died on the set of the Western film Rust. The actor said that he would be in favour of limiting the use of firearms on films. He also confirmed production of the movie was now unlikely to resume.
Now, as pupils return after the half-term break, health teams will visit 800 schools across England to offer those aged 12 to 15 a coronavirus vaccine.
Young people are also being encouraged to take a COVID test before returning to classes, as Simon Jones now reports.
You're not afraid to most of the grown-ups.
When pupils returning to school this week are asked, what did you do in the half-term break? Some will be able to say, I got my jab. Special sessions have been put on for 12 to 15-year-olds at vaccination centres, like this one in Kent. And now the plan is to allow more pupils to get a jab at school, with teams going into hundreds of schools in England this week.
I might be carrying it and I don't even know.
Yeah,
and if he catches it, then...
Because I'm quite old, I'm an old dad, so I'm in my 60s, and obviously he worries a bit about that.
We've had deaths in the family, so we thought maybe, I know she's young, but, get her to be safe.
I wanted to get it done. I wanted all the things to be back normal again.
Parents of pupils who haven't yet had the jab are being encouraged to go online and read about the programme to allow them to make an informed choice. more than 600,000 young people have been vaccinated since the rollout was extended to include 12 to 15-year-olds at the end of September. Another 140,000 children have their jabs booked over the next few weeks, according to NHS England. The Office for National Statistics says the percentage of people testing positive remains highest amongst children in school years 7 to 11, estimated at just over 9%. Pupils are also being urged to take a lateral flow test before returning to school to minimise disruption to lessons. The aim, to keep as many children safely in the classroom as possible. Simon Jones, BBC News.
It's just got 9 minutes past 6. Let's have a look at what the papers are saying this morning. Let's start with the front pages, and COP26 features prominently on many of them. The climate summit is, quote, the world's moment of truth, according to the Scotland on Sunday. The paper carries a photograph of the activist Greta Thunberg arriving in Glasgow.
The Observer reports that scientists and environmentalists have called for Boris Johnson and the French President Emmanuel Macron to end the row over Anglo-French fishing rights amid fears that it could overshadow the climate conference.
And the fishing row also appears on the front page of the Sunday Telegraph. The paper reports that Mr Johnson has accused Mr Macron of participating in a pattern of threats against the UK.
Let's have a look on BBC Online this morning. The most read story on the BBC News website is the latest on the film set shooting involving Alec Baldwin, which we reported a couple of moments ago in the news summary. It reports that the actor's spoken out in public, as we said, for the first time since he accidentally shot dead the cinematographer Helena Hutchings, saying that she was my friend. Shall we have a look inside some of the papers? Now, please, I don't want to start a stampede. This is inside the Sunday Telegraph of panic buying of books, but the Sunday Telegraph is reporting paper cuts prove a pain in the race for Christmas bestsellers. Essentially what they're saying is that there could be a shortage of the really popular titles over Christmas if a second print run is required because of problems with paper supply and the problems that we know about shipping, because a lot of the colour prints of books apparently are done in the Far East and therefore have to be brought in on container ships. There's a bit of a shortage of paper as well. So the gist of this story is, if you want to buy a book for someone for Christmas, buy it early.
That's it done. Presumably the headline above it, buy your wedding dresses a year in advance, brides are being told for similar reasons.
Yeah, that could well be the same. I think that might well be right.
On page 39 of the Observer, this really captured my imagination. So this is an ancient Roman party town. This was basically a hotbed of partying by the Romans in the 3rd century.
They were good at parties.
They were really good at it. Buried under the sea. It's basically a massive spa complex that's been found off the coast near Naples. So in the 1940s, on a clear day, an Italian Air Force pilot spotted what he described as a strange ghost town underneath, and have been gradually unpicking it, and now it's become a tourist destination. It's absolutely beautiful. You can see the mosaic floor there with a diver up close to it. Amazing.
Staying with a similarly highbrow theme, we're talking high art here. Hogarth, the famous painter, of course, apparently, according to the Sunday Times, because there were so many fakes of his paintings that were done in the day, he started to make adjustments at the last minute to try and throw the forgers off, so they weren't able to produce knockoff prints of his own famous works before he
What
published
sort of
them
things
himself.
does it say?
Yeah, a man hanging on a lamppost, apparently in the background of one that's been revealed by an X-ray, all sorts.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And keeping it highbrow, these are the people who've made motors their homes. So this one is my favourite. This is basically people who've taken different vehicles and turned them into motorhomes. Former lorry driver Charlie Glover was living in his nan's spare room when he bought a faded and rusty truck for £2,000 in 2018, and now he's turned it into a home, his full-time home. He's living in it. It's got a sound system salvaged from a nightclub. Water is stored in beer kegs, and his kitchen is made from pallets. Brilliant. He's fitting well in Glasgow this weekend, wouldn't he? Everything is upcycled.
Absolutely.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News. Here in this Shanghai surveillance center, no resident goes unwatched. Hundreds of millions of cameras are installed all over China.
We have algorithms that automatically recognize certain behaviors. If someone isn't wearing a mask,
Thank you,
for
ladies and
example,
gents.
we immediately detect this wrongdoing.
Really appreciate everyone come through. We've got a few more segments to come get through. Got some ironic news about the Conservative Club. Obviously, I'm a Conservative member, but it's things need to be spoken about, such as, you know, people's safety, which is paramount inside the party. Conservative members, politicians have to commit their safety. Rob Roberts is disgraced MP back in Conservative Party on Monday, but he's standing as an independent MP. An MP who sexually harassed a member of his staff will have his Conservative Party membership reinstated on Monday. Rob Roberts, the MP for Delin, began 12-week suspension from the party on the 9th of August and was also suspended from the Parliament for 6 weeks in May. But come Monday, he will become a member of the party again. However, the Tory whip, which will make him a Conservative MP in the Commons, will remain suspended, so he will continue as the independent MP. When his 12 weeks party suspension was announced, his former employee told the BBC it was disconcerting as someone who has caused so much concern amongst younger members of the party should be allowed to continue their membership. Earlier this year, an independent panel found Mr. Roberts sexually harassed a member of staff. The former employee told the BBC the MP had repeatedly propositioned him and asked him to be less alluring. Mr. Roberts said he apologised for a completely improper breach of trust in the MP staff relationship, but because of legal loophole, he did not face a recall petition, which can lead to a by-election, as he was suspended by an independent panel rather than parliamentary committee. After Mr. Roberts' case drew attention to this gap in the rules, MPs voted to change them, so members suspended for bullying or sexual harassment can now face a recall petition. But the House rejected a proposal by the Labour Party to make these rule changes retrospective so they could apply to Mr. Roberts. I'm not in at all trying to sit there for his defence, but we're going to try and, you know, visualise what may have happened. I mean, a woman can come overwhelming, very, very generous, very kind-hearted, soft, elegant voice, smelling nice, probably appearance, looking smart in a city slicker kind of outfit. That soft, elegant voice. He's obviously taking it all overwhelming and, you know, thinking that she was flirting with her nice, you know, elegant voice, which is why a lot of women, it's how they condone themselves, how they maintain themselves. I can imagine. Well, I've never worked in an office with the lady to, you know, for many years working at office, and you get that close partnership in business. I suppose it could be a bit of a tricky situation for guys. I suppose. I'm not sure. I don't know. I've never been in that situation. I can't answer that protocol there. But anyway, in Essex, my constituency again. I mean, I'm a bus rider. I'm a bus rider saving CO2 emissions at the moment. Colchester Head Street, police cornered off at Essex Road as bus erupts into flames. The cause of fire has been recorded as accidental. The bus had caught fire in Head Street, Colchester, exactly where I get my bus from. Essex police cornered off road after bus erupted in flames. Emergency services, including Essex County Fire and Rescue Services and Essex Police, were called to Head Street in Colchester after a bus caught fire around 4 p.m. yesterday afternoon. The road was completely blocked off by the junction and Southway, Colchester, while emergency service dealt with the fire. Let's see if anyone got hurt. As a result, the fire motorists were diverted through Balcon Hill, Colchester. Bus services from First Bus and the Riviera also saw disruptions, with services diverting through the town by Brook Street as well as Balcon Hill. Essex County Fire and Rescue Service confirmed that they attended the scene with firefighters extinguished the flames by 4:15. The cause of fire has been recorded as accidental. A spokesperson for Essex County Fire and Rescue Service said firefighters were called to a vehicle fire in Head Street, Colchester at 4:05 yesterday, October the 30th. On arrival, crews reported that a bus was on fire and worked to extinguish the fire. By 4:15, the cause of fire was accidental. Doesn't say if it was a Riviera or a Headland bus. It says there's a Riviera bus is there being blocked, but doesn't say what bus it was. Essex Police confirmed that Essex Live that they closed off the road to assist the fire crews with the bus fire. The road was reopened to motorists shortly after 6 p.m, around an hour and a half after the bus had first caught fire. So we don't know if anyone was injured, and we don't know if it was actually a Riviera bus, but we do know it was a Riviera bus that got blocked. So that's a bit I suppose they kept it out of the headlines to let people not worry about getting on a bus, because obviously it saves CO2 emissions. Essex Crime: man threatened and chased in Highwood Country Park in alleged hate crime. I mean, this is somewhere where I like to visit for escapism. The victim believes he was targeted due to his nationality. A man was threatened and chased at Essex Park and reported hate crime. The victim, a man in his 30s, was reportedly threatened and chased by a man in Highwood Country Park in Colchester, Essex, at around 1:15 last Thursday. The man who allegedly attacked the victim has been described as Essex Police as white, in his late 40s to mid-50s, bald and wearing army-style boots, red gloves, and was wearing a large camping-style backpack. Essex Police are now appealing for anybody with any information to come forward. A spokesperson for Essex Police said, "We are investigating following reported hate crime in Colchester. It was reported a man threatened the victim, a man in his 30s, and chased after him in Highwood Country Park between 1:15 and 1:30 on Thursday." Mate, who's letting these metropolitan lunatic asylums out of the day release? I do not know. The man is described to us as white, in his late 40s to mid-50s, bald and wearing army-style boots, red gloves, and he's wearing a large camping-style backpack. We're treating the incident as a hate crime, as the victim believes he was targeted due to his nationality. If you have any information, you can submit a report online at www.essex.police.uk or use the live chat button to speak to an online operator between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. Yeah, so if anyone does hear any whereabouts, please allegedly let the police officials know what happened. Just ring them up. They don't have to ring them up anonymously. Just give them out your name. We will protect you. Society will protect you. I can assure you. You're doing a good deed for the day. You need to get rid of these lunatic asylums. It's no good for these people to be walking our streets. We need to put them in a mental home. Simple.